All right, today we're jumping into the wonderfully wise, hilarious, and super practical world of Anne Lamott. We're going to unpack some of her absolute best advice for writers, and really for anyone who creates anything, from her legendary book, Bird by Bird. Let's get into it.
You know that feeling, right? When you sit down to work and your mind is just chaos. It's like a radio stuck between stations, just this constant buzzing static of thoughts and doubts and critiques. It can feel pretty much impossible to hear yourself think, let alone create. Well, Anne Lamott has the perfect, and I mean perfect name for this mental racket. She calls it radio station KFKD. And yeah, the F is exactly what you think it is. She says this internal broadcast is one of the single biggest hurdles any writer has to get over. And here's where it gets so relatable. Lamott says KFKD broadcasts in stereo. Out of one speaker, you get this endless stream of self-aggrandizement. You know the voice that's telling you, you're a genius, they just don't get you. But then, out of the other speaker comes this non-stop playlist of self-loathing, the one that's whispering, you're a fraud, you have no idea what you're doing. Ringing any bells? And here's the bottom line. You can't do the work when your head is full of that static. It's just not possible. You can't hear your characters. You can't find the truth in your story. You're just stuck. So the big question is, how in the world do you turn the volume down? Well, Lamott's answer starts with this really fundamental shift in how we look at things. It's not about fighting the noise head on. It's about learning to see the world, and maybe more importantly, ourselves, in a completely different light. She says that to write anything true, you have to learn to pay what she calls reverent attention, to really look at the world with a sense of wonder. But, and this is the key, she argues you can't really see other people with any clarity until you can first look at yourself with some kindness and compassion. It all starts on the inside. And this is just the best metaphor for it. Think of your wandering, noisy mind like a little puppy you're trying to house train. When it makes a mess, you don't scream at it or, as she says, drop kick the puppy into the neighbor's yard. No way. You just gently, patiently pick it up and bring it back to the newspaper. You just gently bring your focus back to the page. So once you start quieting that inner critic with a little kindness, what do you start to hear instead? Well, this is where it gets fun. Lamott says you can finally tune into another station, a voice she gives this wonderfully weird name to. Broccoli. Yes, you heard that right. It actually comes from an old Mel Brooks bit, but Lamott brilliantly co-opts it as her metaphor for intuition. It's that gut feeling, that quiet little voice deep down that just knows what needs to happen next in your story or which word feels wrong.
Now, why is this so important? Because as Lamott points out, we live in a culture that basically worships the logical, rational mind. But for a creator, relying only on logic can squeeze all the life, all the messy, juicy, fascinating stuff right out of your work. Your intuition, your broccoli, is what leads you to the weird, the wonderful, and the true.
So, how do you listen for it? It's actually pretty simple, but it takes practice. First, you have to turn the dial on KFKD way, way down. Get quiet. Then, just breathe. Get into your body, into this moment. And finally, just listen. It's probably not going to be a shout. Lamott calls it a subterranean murmur, something you have to be really quiet to hear. Okay, so we're practicing compassion, we're trying to listen to our intuition. But what about that one broadcast from KFKD that can be the absolute loudest, the most toxic one of all? Yeah, let's talk about jealousy. Lamott is so real about this. She calls jealousy an occupational hazard of being a writer, and it is just brutal. The moment you see someone else get that book deal, that award, that success you want so badly, it feels like a personal attack on your own worth. It's a poison, and it can stop you cold. So what's the fix? Well, her advice is just so incredibly human and practical. For one, just get older. Perspective helps. But also, talk about it. Tell a friend. Say it out loud until it loses its power. Find someone who can help you laugh about the absurdity of it all. And, this is the big one for a writer, use it. Put it on the page, turn that poison into material. And all of this brings us to this incredible quote from the ancient Rabbi Hillel that Lamott keeps taped above her desk. This is really the mantra for the whole creative life. It's not about being perfect or never failing. You will fall down. You will face rejection and doubt and jealousy. The whole point is to just keep dancing. And for Anne Lamott, writing is the dance. That's the whole practice. It's how she deals with everything. The noisy radio in her head, the moments of beauty, the ugly envy, that quiet voice of intuition. The act of writing itself is how she gets up, walks, falls down, and just keeps on moving.
So we want to leave you with that question. In your own creative life, with all its mess and its glory and its frustrations, what's your dance? How do you keep showing up, keep making things, keep putting words on the page or paint on the canvas? What does it mean for you to keep dancing?